Good morning and welcome to our news update, coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Salia Strzemska. Parliamentary elections are underway in Moldova, where voters will decide between continuing the country's pro-European path or returning to the Russian sphere of influence. Moldova's current government aspires to join the EU, an endeavour that will only be possible if they control the parliament. Polls indicate that President Maia Sandu's Party of Action and Solidarity, PAS, could struggle to keep its majority. According to Sandu, Russia has launched an extensive campaign to sway the vote in favour of her party's main challenger, the pro-Russian Patriotic Bloc. In recent weeks, authorities have conducted hundreds of raids targeting illegal party financing and allegedly Russian-backed networks aimed to stir unrest over the vote. On Friday, the Election Commission barred Heart of Moldova, part of the Patriotic Bloc, from the election while it is investigated for illicit funding. Moldova has a Romanian-speaking majority and a large Russian-speaking minority, and political power has alternated for decades between pro-Russian and pro-European groups. We'll be discussing Moldova's crucial vote throughout the morning here on TVP World, so stay tuned. Right after the bulletin, we'll be joined by Rufin Zamir, independent strategic communication specialist, and later at 11:15 CET by Piotr Oleksy, political scientist from Adam Mickiewicz University. Both will share their insights on what's at stake for the country. Russia targeted Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities in a mass missile and drone attack overnight on September 28th, launching heavy bombers that triggered air raid sirens even in regions far from the front line. Our correspondent Alex Cadier is on the ground and has the latest. Good morning, Alex. Good to see you. So can you bring us up to speed as to what has happened?
Good morning, Sally. Yet another sleepless night in Ukraine, another sleepless night in this city. You can see behind me we're in the center of Kyiv, and it is still rather deserted. Most people here will have been staying in their shelters if they are lucky enough to have one. The preliminary toll is 2 dead and more than 6 injured. That's according to the head of the Kyiv City Military Administration. We've also had reports that a 12-year-old girl was killed not far from here in a residential building in the center of Kyiv. We do not have the exact number of ordnance fired at this country yet. We've seen reports of 90 drones earlier in the night heading towards Kyiv. Russian heavy bombers also targeting the city of Zaporizhia. Now, in this city, we've seen a shopping center targeted by a Shahed drone and residential buildings virtually completely destroyed in this attack. It is still very early in this attack. It has been a completely sleepless night. We've been hearing air defenses working for hours on end. The loud sounds of those air defenses firing at these Shahed drones, these Iranian-made, Russian-operated drones over the skies of Kyiv. One shot down as well over the skies in this city. The latest report says that a dozen are still over the skies of Ukraine, one over this city as we speak. Yet another Russian attack, yet another attack on civilian infrastructure, on residential buildings and other targets across the country. This has become, of course, a routine reality. If you speak to residents of Kyiv, they will tell you that these attacks will often come on weekends, will often come before big working days, because they see this as continued psychological warfare from the Russian side, targeting Ukraine, targeting Ukrainian cities. So, of course, we will keep you updated on the details. As I said, preliminary death toll 2 killed in Kyiv, one a 12-year-old girl confirmed by the head of the Kyiv City Military Administration, 6 more injured. But of course, Sally, that death toll, that injury toll almost certainly will rise in the coming hours.
Alex Cadier reporting from Kyiv. Thank you for this, much appreciated, and do stay safe. And of course, we'll be going back to Alex throughout the morning for the latest updates. More drones were spotted over Danish military facilities Friday night. This is the 4th time this week that drones have flown over Danish infrastructure, forcing temporary closures of several major airports. On Saturday, another drone paralyzed the Shiphol airport in Amsterdam also. Kazimierz Łysiak reports.
For a 4th time this week, drones have been spotted over Danish critical infrastructure. this time over the country's largest military airbase, Karup. It is a crucial NATO facility, hosting the Danish Royal Air Force flying schools for both jets and helicopters, as well as the command for a NATO battle group. The base had to briefly close its airspace due to the sighting.
We are in a very serious security situation. There's no doubt about that. This applies to all of Europe.
Danish authorities have stopped short of calling Russia the culprit just yet, but analysts have no doubt who's behind it.
Russia is not attacking just one or two countries on the eastern flank. They're going deep into NATO territory when we talk about Denmark, Norway. So we need to look at it as a holistic problem.
Indeed, similar incidents have been taking place in other NATO countries in Europe. Unidentified drones appeared near Norway's main base for F-35 fighter jets, as well as the Dutch airport of Shiphol in Amsterdam, also on Saturday. And as top NATO brass met in Riga on the same day for the alliance's triannual military committee, they had these provocations top of mind.
Russian aircraft and drones, on top of the already existing measures, will now find the resolute response of the newly established and already operational Eastern Sentry activity, which further strengthens NATO's ability to react quickly.
There are several reasons why NATO forces are hesitant to shoot down these drones. One, it's very costly to do so using traditional means like missiles. And two,
they also, for example, take into consideration what is down, what the debris could cause. It's just part of the process of decision making, which goes from the Supreme Allied Commander up to the pilot in flight.
While these drones haven't acted hostile in a traditional sense, their presence is a threat on its own. It shows they can cross into NATO airspace and approach critical infrastructure mostly uninterrupted.
Since 2014 even, we've done these very small steps to respond to Russia, and we continue to have this posture of, in my view, of being on our back foot, with the Russians always having the advantage of surprise against us.
The European Union is currently working on the creation of the so-called drone wall with the help of Ukraine, an initiative launched after the recent drone incursions into Poland. Germany also announced on Saturday that it will shoot down drones over its airspace if needed.
It's about detecting drones, it's about intercepting drones, it's also about shooting down drones.
Drones have also flown over Sweden this week. Estonia saw Russian jets violate its airspace for 12 minutes last week, while close to 20 Russian drones crossed into Poland earlier this month. Poland is the only NATO country to have shot down several of them.
I have only one request to the Russian government. If another missile or aircraft enters our space without permission, deliberately or by mistake, and gets shot down, and the wreckage falls on NATO territory, please don't come here to whine about it.
For TVP World, I'm Kazimierz Łysiak.
According to U.S. national security and foreign policy analyst Mark Toff, recent drone incursions into EU airspace are a Russian attempt to discourage Europe from assisting Ukraine. But according to the analyst, this tactic is not working.
It's a dual-purpose thing. I mean, one, they are trying to disrupt. Part of this is messaging to Europe. Stand down in Ukraine. Do not provide more assistance. Do not do any kind of Western Ukraine sky shield to interdict Russian drones, etc. They want that messaging to get across. Fortunately, it's not working. Europe rightly is saying, look, we're not going to tolerate this. Europe to date has implemented through NATO the Eastern Shield. The talks continue about how better to create a drone wall that was just announced by the EU Defense Commissioner yesterday and today, depending upon where you are in the world. And so all of those things are good. The second side of it is testing, right? When you conduct these kind of operations, whether they're cyber, taking down of systems, et cetera, that guide and airplanes and the like, or jam the GPS systems that guide them in the air, all of those things serve a purpose. You learn lessons, you gather data, and you learn how to implement that if this turns more kinetic in the future. So it's really a little bit of two things. It's messaging, but it's also preparing for a future conflict if it comes to that.
This Saturday's edition of Ukraine This Week featured Peter Dickinson, editor of the Atlantic Council's Ukraine Alert. He delivered a sobering message to European leaders, warning that the continent must finally take its security seriously. Dickinson asked how many more wake-up calls Europe will need before it gets tough on the threats it faces.
And again, I think America has a good point here when they say, look, you want us to step in and do X, Y, Z. You want us to provide the military aid, you need to do that yourself. You want us to impose sanctions, you need to do that yourselves as well. Europe's really got to step up there, and they've got to get tough, got to get even tougher. I mean, I think I would say in fairness that Europe has made significant progress in some aspects, certainly in terms of Russian gas. They've cut down a lot, but they're still talking about 2026, 2027. It's very, very slow. There needs to be more of a sense of urgency here because the Russians are not waiting. The Russians are moving forward. They're clearly already probing Europe militarily.
During a press conference following the NATO Military Committee Summit in Riga, Latvia, its chairman, Admiral Giuseppe Cavodragone, discussed what could happen if the US were to withdraw its presence from NATO's eastern flank.
First of all, we have in different, multiple situation guarantee that NATO, that US cares about NATO, and they will not leave NATO alone. First of all, the further away you intercept the crisis, the better it is for the alliance, of course. So let's assume that it is from the Indo-Pacific, okay. And so we will witness a partial disengagement, but not to leave NATO alone, to just face other threats, which have impact on NATO too, by the way, with the connection we do have on today's geopolitical situation. So nothing wrong. I mean, the alliance, if it is a mature and strong alliance there, like we are after 76 years, we are going to fill the gap and just reshuffle everything and just make it happen. The thing is that, and if it will happen, it will be in a coordinated way, and we will do that together just to rebalance everything in the most efficient and effective way.
Hungary's Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó accused Croatia of trying to profit from the war in Ukraine by, quote, systematically raising transit fees for all deliveries. Zagreb denied the claim, reminding onlookers that Hungary is one of the few countries in the EU and NATO that still import Russian energy products.
Amidst energy discussions among EU and NATO allies, Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó accused Croatia of looking to profit off the war in Ukraine by increasing transit costs for Hungary. Peter Szijjártó also claimed that Croatia's pipelines cannot ensure a safe supply of oil and gas to Hungary and Slovakia, prompting the two countries to purchase energy products from Russia.
No matter how much the Croatian government denies it, they are trying to profit from the war in Ukraine. Since the outbreak of the war, they've significantly increased their transit fees on oil deliveries through Croatia. And now they want to block us from buying Russian oil in order to secure a monopoly over Hungary and make even more money from us.
Croatian Foreign Minister Grlić Radman rejected the claim of his Hungarian counterpart, also adding fuel to the flame by shifting the profiteering accusation onto Budapest.
We firmly reject the unfounded accusations by Hungary's Foreign Minister Szijjártó labeling Croatia a war profiteer. In reality, Hungary profits from cheap Russian gas.
The Croatian Prime Minister Andrej Plenković also commented on the Hungarian Foreign Minister's claims, saying he rejects with indignation the false thesis of Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó that Croatia is a war profiteer.
President Donald Trump is sending U.S. troops to Portland, Oregon, to protect federal immigration facilities from what he described as attacks by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. The move has sparked backlash from Oregon officials who called it unwarranted and politically motivated.
At the request of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, I am directing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. I am also authorizing full force if necessary. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
And that's a wrap for this news bulletin, but do stay with us. We're going to discuss today's election in Moldova in a moment.